It can be incredibly helpful if you change your view of yourself with flipping around. Who you are in any given moment is not necessarily the whole truth, because we are made up of different parts of our personality. And our personality, or these personality parts, are formed early on in childhood in the interaction with our primary caregivers. And then each of these parts that we form, personality traits, have their own neurophysiological, let's say, life. They are actual neuronal networks in our brains that have their own memory, their own thoughts, their own physical sensations, their own emotions. So these neuronal networks in our brains that are all our different parts of our personality have their own view of the world, their own age, their own needs, their own symptoms, their own beliefs, their everything. And we're not just one. And deep within, there is one core self, one, basically how we are born, one core self that is whole and that is healed, and there's nothing wrong with it. But then based on these experiences that we make, our personality parts and our neuronal networks form. So what are the parts of our personality that we usually have? Basically, we can differentiate between three. One are the resourceful parts. So this is basically when we're connected to this core self, to this true self, when we're joyful, when we're creative, when we're just feeling alive. And then we have hurt or wounded parts. So these are parts that are parts that are often carrying symptoms or patterns. Often they're stuck in fight or flight response, or even like in shutdown. They're like dead, they're like in dissociation. And we have hurting or wounding parts. So those could be the things like the inner critic, the inner judge that we have inside, that carry a lot of tension, that carry a lot of charge in them. And our personality is made up of all of those. And given in the situation, every part in your personality, no matter what it does, no matter if you like it or not, no matter if it might be destructive and creating results in your life that are, let's say, less than optimal, they're actually acting for you. Why is that? Well, essentially, our personality is formed in different parts. So early on, our brain gets conditioned in childhood by the interaction with our primary caregiver. And then based on these interactions and experiences that we make, we form neurophysiological networks, neural networks in our brain that then become those specific parts of ourselves. So essentially we can differentiate between three parts: resourceful, hurt, or hurting parts. So in each of our parts in our brain, every neuronal network, that's a tricky word, in our brain has its own emotion, its own symptoms, its own physical sensations, everything. So each of our personality part has their own view of the world, their own need, their own beliefs, their own age. So we are made up of different personalities. And when we're connected to the resourceful part in ourselves, let's say the true self, then we're creative, then we feel alive, then we are joyful. But there's also the hurt parts, which are stuck in survival mode. They're stuck in fight or flight. They can have like a lot of emotion, a lot of symptoms inside. They can be stuck in shutdown. Or we also have the hurting, the wounding parts, the inner critic, the inner judge, these parts of ourselves that carry a high charge of emotion and symptoms that tend to lash out and that tend to create these experiences in life that we don't want to have. So what this helps is to understand that whatever you think is you is not you. This is a part of you acting out in a certain way that part has learned to protect you from a certain situation. But that deep within, no matter what, there is a core sense, there's a core sense of self that is whole and that is healed, and that is not wounded. And that the other parts are adaptive and survival strategies that have formed their own networks and that are now acting out, that of course you can change once you start seeing that it's not you, but it's a pattern. It's a part of you.